Hello, I'm Violet, and I am positive that I am a targeted individual. Um, and this is my, I guess, second video on the subject. Um, I think for each video, I'm just gonna change my little do-rag here, my little, I don't know, my little head covering, my do-rag, my sickly rag, I don't know what you want to call it. Um, so I like these things, they cover all sins. Also, I took my phone out of its case. And I do have the window open, so I hope that you can still hear me, but hopefully that won't matter. Um, and I am holding the phone as close as I can to my face without completely making it look really weird and going completely out of focus. Um, so I apologize if you can't hear me very well. I'm talking as loud as I dare without the neighbors are very close to us. And I need the window open just to be able to breathe in here. It's very stuffy in here, and oddly enough, the temperature started going up, which is different uh, for us because of how cold it's been here, which is also very different. But anyway, so to the point of the video, sorry about that. I do rather wander off on tangents. So to start at the beginning, I was born in Fridley, Minnesota, and just to begin with, I have always had I think I'm an empath. I definitely can feel things, and I definitely am affected by stuff to the point where my parents, they actually, I should probably just start this off with my dad. He got education, he got tack hand training, and he always talks about being stationed out at Point Magoose in on San Nicolas Island in California, and he's ground that into my head, and he was a tack hand. And then after the Navy, he ended up because that was during the time of the draft. That was before the draft was wiped away. So after the Navy, he ended up going and eventually getting a job at a place called Control Data. Interestingly enough, and he worked on mainframe computers. Now, what mainframe computers were is they were these huge room-sized computers where literally the term debugging meant taking the hard drive essentially out of the computer and dumping the actual bugs out of it, because the bugs would get attracted to, I guess, the electricity that these computers were pumping out. So my dad worked on them when a floppy drive was the size of, a table, and then the size of a dinner plate. And he was the best. They used him like an engineer, even though he didn't have a civilian engineering degree. He had a Navy engineering degree, and he had a Navy electrical degree and radio, all this stuff. And interestingly enough, uh, Control Data had given NASA some of its computers, and they actually sent my dad down there to fix NASA's computers because they had, like usual, they'd gone cheap and fast and fucked up on the hard drives. And dad had to go down there and fix the cheap and wonky slipshod slap job wires and ways that they put it together. And part of that was actually because Control Data was having to also get along with, they're having to employ another company putting other specific parts in. And interestingly enough, and oddly enough, the guys at NASA didn't know a damn thing about this computer, and they didn't know how to run it. They didn't know how to make it function. They didn't know anything about it. And, dad was like, this shit is so easy, and you guys work for NASA. What the fuck? And he had to show them how to use it, and it's just, I mean, it was a room-sized computer, it was a mainframe computer, but he had to go down there and, you know, and he was constantly having to go down there and, show them how to use the newly installed crap. So, and then also Control Dad also ended up sending him overseas to, I think it was Taiwan or Japan, to fix a computer that they had sent over there and hadn't. I don't know whether the recipients didn't install it correctly or what. But anyway, so I also ended up finding out through the course of my life that my dad, when he went to go over to Taiwan or Japan or wherever it was, the company was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna have to get you like, astronaut, just like godlike clearance just to be able to go and do this stuff and install it." And so when they went to actually go and do that, they found out that Dad already had godlike clearance from the US government. His clearance was higher than his brother's. And now looking back on it, my dad had an older brother who was also in the Navy, and he ended up coming back and actually getting a civilian degree. I think it was in teaching, and he actually ended up being like the CEO of, I think it was one of the Bell telephone companies. He worked for one of the Bell telephone companies or something like that. He worked for one of the phone companies, and I'm positive it was Bell Telephone. It used to be known as Bell Telephone, and then they chopped it up, because of monopolies. Um, but now I am beyond positive that his brother was a targeted individual. He ended up getting essentially blood cancer and dying from it. And he died at a very early age. He shouldn't have gotten sick when he did. It was very strange. It was very spontaneous. Even his wife was wary of it and was positive that he had contracted it via something that he had done in the Navy. Um, and sorry if my camera is rocking. I'm having to hold it with my hand. And by the way, speaking of which, and this is more mainly for myself, my right hand here, uh, these two fingers and this finger, but these two fingers, but my thumb especially, it's hard to break a thumb. It's hard to break a thumb. This thumb on my right hand, the bone, this part of it that I'm moving right now, and the actual like back of the palm of my hand, this area back here, I woke up with at least these three fingers. I'm trying to show it to the camera here. These three, my pointer finger, my thumb, and my flipping off finger. And mainly those fingers up in my hand, those phalanges there. About 2 weeks ago now, I woke up with my hand broken. I don't know why, I don't know how, but my thumb was broken. And my thumb's been healing. The bone itself was broken. My hand was broken. The bones were broken. I've had broken bones before, and I know what they feel like. And I've had broken pinkies and broken toes. And I know what a broken bone feels like. And I've never had a broken thumb before. But I had a broken thumb, and I hadn't done any type of, I wasn't able to get out of bed. I was sick, you know. So there wasn't one damn thing that I had done or had been able to do even 4 weeks before that. If you want to go back even 4 weeks, you can. And I, laying around, feeling sick, feeling lousy, and suddenly one morning I wake up and my hand is broken and my thumb is broken. My thumb specifically was the worst break out of it. And my hand is still healing from that. Nothing fell. I didn't catch anything. There was no rhyme or reason for my hand to be broken. None at all whatsoever. So, and I've woken up with other very strange and unexplained occurrences. Stuff that is very graphic. Stuff that I don't want to put out there just yet. stuff that I really don't want to talk about. But yeah, I thought I should speak about that and record that here. This video is at the 10-minute mark. I guess I'll try to at least finish with my dad. So my dad had super high clearance to be able to go over to, I'm positive it was Taiwan. He ended up being able to figure out how to eat oiled peas, he calls them, with chopsticks. They actually had peas that were like in this oil, and you could eat them with chopsticks, and he said those were pretty good. So I don't know. And apparently over there at the time, this was in the 60s. I think the 60s. My dad, he's in his 80s now. So, um they didn't there was man, I'm just what should I say? What shouldn't I say? One of the things that surprised me as of late, and this is gross, and I'm sorry if you get grossed out about it, but none of the bathrooms had toilet paper. You literally had to bring your own toilet paper to the bathrooms. So that's a rather interesting occurrence. And when he got there, they were installing the mainframe computer. They were literally using bamboo poles, and the bamboo poles were bending so much that they were about to drop the damn thing. I mean, literally, they were putting this computer up on the fourth story, which was like the tallest building in the entire city. Like the fourth story or the fifth story of this essentially 5-story tall building. And they were putting it in through these, through the walls of this building were plate glass, like the whole outside wall was just a plate glass window. And they had removed the plate glass windows, and they were lifting these, these computers that they bought were more expensive than the building itself, than the company itself. And Dad knew that, and he couldn't believe that these idiots were, they were bumping the computers around, they were rocking it around, they were bumping it up and down the stairs. They were, trying to get parts of it up these staircases because there was like no elevator to get the computers up the stair, and they were just really treating these computers horrible. So it really was a miracle that anything even stayed together through all that, and that it was functional after that. So that's some pretty interesting things. And he's said a whole lot more. It's really interesting. I really do gotta get him on tape because he clearly has Alzheimer's. He's never gonna get tested for it, and he's losing his memory, and he's losing it fast, and he's losing it bad. And my parents have never wanted to record anything that they said, or anything about themselves, or anything about their lives. And that rather bothers me, because there is certain things now that I would like to record. And my mom even now fights me. So that's really unfortunate. So yeah, yeah. And because of some extremely negative things that happened in the Navy, um, I think my dad thankfully got some fairly high standing, at least socially. But it caused him PTSD for the rest of his life. And it caused him to take it out on me and the rest of the family. So I'm very upset about that. And now looking at it all, I'm seriously wondering and thinking that my dad is a targeted individual. And I'm beyond positive about it. I know that my sister is definitely a targeted individual, at least in the line of nothing going right in her life. I know that my brother is definitely a targeted individual, but oddly, things have gone well in his life for him. But when he moved out, a whole lot of mental attacks stopped. A whole lot of spiritual attacks stopped. I think the spiritual attacks were from him, but the mental and electronic attacks, technical attacks, I don't know what else to call them, but that's literally what they were. A lot of these attacks from machines and whatnot that were literally my brain being attacked. and like my emotions sort of being attacked, but it's basically my physical body being attacked, that stopped once my brother moved out. So that's really interesting. Um so yeah, so since this is at the 15-minute mark and I can't recall anything else right now to say about my dad, but there you go. There's some precursor to you. Um I don't know about my mom. I don't know if she was ever a targeted individual. She was also uh she came from homelessness. She came from absolute poverty. And when they were able to get when her family was actually able to get their hands on um stamps, food stamps, a snap card, is what they call it now. When her family was able to get public housing, that was a real boon for them because they never managed to get public housing. They never managed to get food stamps because, believe it or not, they were too poor for it. Back in the 50s and 60s, when she was a kid and going to school and whatnot. So there you go. There you go. So I wouldn't be surprised if my mom is a targeted individual. I know my uncle Harry. Ooh, I know. Oh, who else? Because of what's going on in my mom's family. Okay, I know I got at least one uncle, if not two, who are definitely targeted individuals. And now when I think about it, I actually wonder if my mom, there's some sort of there's a genetic fuck up in our bloodline. Strangely enough, supposedly I'm not a carrier of it. That I don't believe. Because my brother and sister are carriers, but they're not affected. And according to the geneticist, there's no way for me not to be a carrier. There's absolutely no way. And yet my blood test came back clean. And before that, the geneticist, I mean, because my blood test coming back clean actually makes the geneticist a point blank liar. Because before he drew our blood and got the test back, he said that according to this line of retardation in your genes, the most that you could hope for is for you to be a carrier but not affected by it. Now, me, my brother, and my sister are not affected by it because we're not retarded. We're just not. We don't have the problems that our other relatives have. But my blood test came back clean as not even a carrier. So that means that there is point blank lying going on when it comes to my test results. So, I will get into more in the next video. Bye for now.